Hello and welcome to Education Talk. Now, this is one of your best programs on television and education. You're very welcome, and I'm Wilma. And on this program, we look at the educational system here in the UK. We troubleshoot it, look at the challenges and procure solutions to these challenges. Today, we're going to be talking about learning skills. Now, Learning Performance is a company that began in 1992 and was inspired by the directors Roger and Heather Starbuck's personal experience with education. In collaboration with John Dibley, an Australian educationalist, they developed a series of techniques designed to make learning easier for all students. And now the core philosophy of learning performance is no matter what the student's academic ability, they can achieve anything once they know these essential study skills. And with me in our studios today is Kerry Starbucks. She's the Managing Director of Learning Performance. Kerry, you are very welcome to our studios. Lovely to have you today. Now, we can see that the students were really having fun as they learned, you know. Tell us, what makes your learning style so unique and different?
Well, I think as you saw in the video, all the students were involved in their learning. They were up on their feet, they were laughing, having a great time, and that's because they were using their creativity and imagination. And the learning strategies that we bring into schools is very much about using that power that their brains have, and making learning more fun means raising achievement. The two go hand in hand.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And this is something that not all schools have yet adopted, just the schools that you work with.
That's right, yeah. And we have noticed schools that use us tend to perform better than schools that don't. And there's something about, there's a lot of research and evidence out there actually that shows that learn-to-learn skills, or the posh word is metacognition, there's a lot of evidence to say that this has a high impact on students' attainment. So schools that do bring us in and make it a whole school approach to learning and teaching tend to have better GCSE results than schools that don't.
That is very interesting. I'm sure a lot of parents will want to know a lot more about this, but we'll come to the parent side of things. But let's look at the impact report of 2014 that I was taking a look at that report, and you took, taking a cross-section of 150 schools in the UK. You compared their 2013 GCSE results to their 2014 results, and despite performance table changes, there was on average a 2% increase.
Yes.
Tell us more.
Yes, I think possibly if the performance tables and the parameters for assessing students hadn't have changed, that percentage would have been even greater. So I was really pleased that there still was an increase with the 2%. It's like I said, I think bringing these strategies in, like memory techniques that use creativity and imagination and really give the students ownership over their learning. Once you see that in the classroom and in students and they start loving what they're doing, naturally self-esteem increases, confidence and exam results, and I think having that cross-section of 150 schools proves that.
Wow. Now, each academic year, you work with about 20,000 parents, 10,000 staff, that's quite huge, 1,000 schools, and 250,000 students.
Yes.
Let's start with the parents. How do you engage the parents in this scheme?
Parental engagement is key. I think schools can only do so much. I think a lot has to happen in the home. And what we find with some schools and some parents is that they didn't have a very good experience at school. So when the school asks them to come in for a parent evening, they don't want to go because they haven't enjoyed school themselves. And so it can become a catch-22 position where schools are trying to engage parents, but they don't want to be, and it goes round in circles. So schools often ask us to run a parent forum, which is 45 minutes in the evening. And it's using these strategies. So again, we get them, much like we did with the students in that video, we get parents doing the same thing. And we show them that, you know, learning can be easy, it can be fun, it can be creative, no matter what the topic is. So even maths can be creative. And it's about how they can support their child at home. And we also do parent and child workshops, which again are in the evening, and that's when they work together, and that's brilliant. That's one of my favourite programmes, is having, it's particularly with teenagers. So it's a really difficult time for parents, teachers, and the kids alike, isn't it? When you're 14, 15, you've got exams, your hormones are up the spout, and having parents and children working together in a safe environment that's open and honest, and working together on these strategies really sees everything come together and build bridges. And of course that also helps raising achievement, is having the parents on the side.
And what you're actually saying is what the schools have been trying to achieve for a very long time. You have been able to achieve that with the parents, and it just took about a 45-minute workshop session to get the parents involved, and that's it.
Yeah, obviously there should be a lot of follow-up in the school themselves. So we often work with staff to say, these are the strategies the students have learned, here's how you can use them in the classroom, and then that means it can be scaled up, that they can use it throughout the school. That's when it has the greatest impact. And also, again, with the parents, working with them for, say, 45 minutes, if that's then followed up like a month, 2 months later, especially prior to exams, then obviously that keeps the message consistent and on task.
How long does it take for a parent to support the child at home? I mean, each day, how many minutes does the parent need to just keep a tab on what the child has learnt in school?
Good question. I think homework and the demand on students has increased. So I imagine parents are feeling a lot of pressure to perhaps sit down and force their student to work, or but it could be as simple as just asking questions. You know, I know you get the classic, so what did you do to school today? And you get a grunt, don't you? And like a one-word answer. But if you sort of even so like, oh, you'll see that you've got your maths homework here. You know, if you need any help, just, you know, give me an ask, or Google it together, that sort of thing. So it can be just a matter of a few minutes, or just a little check-in is enough to be supportive without being over-precious. I think parent pressure is an issue for young people, and so it's finding that balance between the two, isn't it, of not being too intense but also not being so standoffish nothing happens. So
interesting. You talked about the learn-to-learn skills, which is also called metacognition.
Yes.
Now, could you highlight a few of the skills that the children learn and the activities they actually get engaged in? Yeah.
When we mean by metacognition, it's how to learn skills. So students know how to learn and how to revise and how to prepare for exams, which is, you think, quite basic, but actually a lot of students don't know how to do that. So we focus on memory techniques, understanding and condensing text, and then turning like notes, which can be quite, you know, bullet points, turning that into something creative with mind maps. And also motivation, I think that's very key, mindset, goal setting, keeping themselves on task and engaged in their own learning, that's key. Nobody can make a child learn, they do have to do it for themselves. So all our workshops and all our programs is not just about study skills and learning strategies, it's also about getting them engaged and knowing what this is for and what this means for their futures. Because education does have the power to transform their lives, because it opens doors and gives them opportunities. But when you're 15, 14, You might not necessarily know that. And so a lot of the workshops, we focus on that.
So the resultant effect is about increasing the self-confidence of the child through the skills that they learn.
Yes, I think it certainly goes very much hand in hand. If the student is, you know, self-confident, has, you know, high self-esteem and self-belief, if they believe that they can do something and they can achieve, then quite naturally achievement goes hand in hand. And I don't think one can exist without the other.
Let's look at your case studies. I would like to take a look at the Thomas More Catholic College in Staffordshire.
Yes.
Now, very interesting results when I was taking a look at this now. Before your program, the students' average score on national tests was just a mere 22%. And after your program, it jumped to 75%. Now, that's a whole lot of an increase.
Yes.
Tell us what happened there.
That was a brilliant programme. We ran a 6-week literacy and numeracy programme for their Year 7 pupil premium students, so those that were disadvantaged and were on free school meals. And we worked with them twice a week, just for 2 hours. And we're not English and maths teachers, so we didn't teach the content. What we did was applied strategies, like memory techniques, to English and maths. And what that does, it allows students to learn independently, builds their confidence, they realise they can do stuff. And when we test them at the beginning, like you said, the average score was 22%, and by the end it was 75%. And the performance of those non-pupil premium students actually surpassed those that were non-pupil premium, which is usually, you know, you hear a lot about the government about closing the gap between pupil premium students and those that are non-pupil premium, so their peers. Well, this school actually went the other way on this programme, those students, and it was so fantastic to see the transformation in the children from going to, you know, quite low levels in English and maths to reaching their targets.
Let's look at something you said. You said you did not teach the content of literacy and numeracy, but rather you applied creative learning strategies to identified areas. Let's start with identifying the areas.
Yes.
How do you identify the areas?
We work with the school, particularly with the English and Maths department, areas that need improvement, and that can be spelling and grammar, it can be imaginative writing, or it could be fractions and decimals. It really depends. It's bespoke to each school because every student's different and so is every school. Their needs are completely different. So we do liaise quite closely with the departments as to what they want covered. And then we come in and work with their students and show them certain techniques on how to, you know, convert fractions to decimals and vice versa. But instead of sitting down and being like, this is how you do it, we think of a fun way or a creative way of a memory technique so they remember the formula. So that's the key. When they did that test again, they just remembered how to do it. They remembered the formula, so they were able to answer the question correctly. Because essentially that's what exams are. That's recall, it's memory.
It's memory, it's only about memory.
Yeah, yeah.
Talking about memory now, you've got the UK Schools Memory Championships, and it was established as an enviable reputation for helping students acquire, you said, powerful mental skills. I like that, powerful mental skills to improve both learning and self-confidence. And it's the UK Schools Memory Championships. Well, let's see what happened in 2014, last year.
Competition to find the best young memory in Britain is on. Can you memorise 100 objects in under 10 minutes?
Generating sequence.
Remember 100 random numbers in order. Become an expert in a brand new subject in just 1 hour.
In what year was the 4th billionth can of spam produced?
1986.
Correct.
These kids are about to try just that, as they take part in the ultimate test of brain power.
You've only got to memorise 104. Good luck.
2 days, 4 incredible challenges.
My nerves were shot to pieces.
One thing in common. None of them are child geniuses.
Wouldn't really say I'm top of the class. Sometimes I can't remember what I had for tea.
2 months ago, they were just normal kids.
Anyway.
Now they have some of the fittest brains in the country.
Do the chicks dig it? No.
Hey, you check out that guy, he can memorize stuff.
How did they do it?
Congratulations, that's all 100 numbers.
Prepare yourself for a memory upgrade.
Welcome back. That's the UK Schools Memory Championships now carried. Tell us more about this. Can any child take part?
Yes, yeah, it's open to all schools and all ages, although we recommend it's from year 6 straight up to post 16.
Why year 6? Why not lower? What if a child that is younger than year 6 wants to take part?
What we want to do, I think, in the future is have a primary school competition and then a secondary school. I think right now, if we were to open it to, say, year 3 or 4, and they were competing against 18-year-olds, I'm not sure how fair that would be. Whereas year 6, you know, they're on the cusp of secondary school. But in the future, we definitely want to run a primary one, because the primary school's children, their imagination and their memory is just fantastic.
Especially looking at this generation, they have the internet there, which people 20 years ago didn't have that advantage. Yeah,
that's very true. And there's a lot more. We've moved it online this year as well, and that's partly because technology's moved on. We used to run workshops on these memory skills for the memory championships, but actually having it online makes it much more accessible to the schools and to the students that want to enter. So yeah, that just goes to show that technology has a large part to play in education now. But it was started by the Memory Sports Council some 6-7 years ago, and it's sort of the child version, if you like, of the adult memory championships. And it is incredible what they do. They can memorise, I don't know, hundreds of pack of cards in under an hour. And we work quite closely with Dominic O'Brien, who's the 8 times world memory champion. And he's a real strong role model for young people. He was severely dyslexic, really struggled at school, and he left with hardly any qualifications. But then he discovered memory techniques and realised that he could achieve and that he can learn. And he's now made it his profession. And he goes around the whole world talking about memory skills and how important it is for young people. So when they, 6-7 years ago, launched the UK School Memory Championship, that was what their values were, was to reach as many students as possible and show just how vital memory is for learning and, of course, confidence as well.
Quite interesting, and the aim definitely is to raise achievement. And when we talk about memory, and you say they would have to memorize hundreds of cards under an hour. Now, many kids may be discouraged by that. Are there any requirements to be part of this competition?
Oh, that is not a requirement for the child one. That's an adult one. The children disciplines are numbers, so random numbers, random words, letters, and random places and people. So it's a simplified version for young people, because you're right, it would be really off-putting if you got to remember 100 pack of cards. So it's simpler disciplines, but actually I quite like that you think there's an obstacle to learning there. There's an instant, I can't do that. But actually, with these techniques, that obviously we show them how to do it, they amaze themselves at how much they can learn. And that's what's key to it all, changing that attitude to I can't to I can.
Very interesting. So it's all about helping the child remember whatever the child has learned. And those skills that a child learns in this competition can be transferred to the classroom and also to the home.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you think about it, you're not born knowing how to talk or how to walk. You have to learn those things. And in order for you to learn those things, your brain has to make millions of connections between neurons. But you learn doing that through a complete sensory experience, don't you? You watch, you feel it, you fall over a lot, so you fail a lot, don't you, when you walk, learning to walk. And that's what memory techniques are all about. It's making billions of connections in your brain and making it really strong by using creativity and imagination. And you don't learn anything unless you remember it. So that's what I'm trying to say with the talking and the walking. It's inherent, isn't it? It's a part of your brain psyche, because you just remember how to do it. And that's what learning is. And so memory skills, particularly in the competition, the championships, can certainly be transferred to schoolwork and, like you said, in the home. And adults too. If you think at work, you've got to remember a lot.
Tell us some of these memory techniques. Some adults and parents may be saying, I would like to learn just one of these techniques. Can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an easy one that could be done. I think the best one is called loci, or memory palace. And it was first used by the ancient Greeks at the birth of democracy. And that's because politicians were expected to speak for hours without any notes. So to help them remember, they would place items or triggers quite logically round a room or somewhere they know very well, which a palace would probably be in that time. So when we go into schools and we demonstrate this technique, we often say the home, because you know your home inside out. You don't have to think or try to remember every detail, it's just there. So you can place items, say, round your lounge, and have a funny story, and then that's how you can remember it, and you can walk yourself through it. Derren Brown, you know, the magician and the trickster, if you like, he uses memory palace in order to help him remember details of the audience and his tricks as well. And so that's a really powerful memory technique, the loci.
That's amazing. And this technique you just described is actually one of the techniques you taught at the Thomas More Catholic College in Staffordshire.
It is. For example, that loci, the memory palace technique, could be used to learn the 10 countries that signed the Treaty of London in 1949, for example. Because you could place those 10 countries, the triggers, say Italy, you could link that to pizza and you can put that in your fridge. France, you could link that to baguettes, couldn't you, the bakery, and you could have that in your lounge or in the bread bin. That might be more logical. And so when you walk round your house in your mind, you open your bread bin and you've got a baguette, France. You open your fridge, you've got a pizza, Italy. And so you could learn the 10 countries of who signed that treaty and who founded the European Union in a quite creative and imaginative way. That's what's powerful about it, because you remember it. Whereas if I was just to rally off the 10 countries that signed it, you'd be like, oh, I'm never going to remember that. But with a technique, you will.
What advice do you have for parents, a parent out there who is saying, my child is currently underachieving in school, and the parent is saying, I don't know what else to do?
I think certainly that open dialogue with the school itself, that would be vital to see whether they can work together as a team to help their child. We do run one-to-one workshops where we can come and work in the home with a group of students so they can get their friends together and run a workshop. And certainly I would say recommend reading a book perhaps about memory techniques. Dominic O'Brien's book, The World Memory Championship, Amazing Memories, fantastic. So that could be a good way of getting, you know, your students engaged at home. If you know, your school's not wanting to do that, then you can, there's a lot that parents can do at home to try and engage their young people.
Which they aren't aware of at all.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think study skills should just be open. I'm surprised when people haven't heard about it, because I do think it should be in every school. There's a lot of evidence and research indicating that it has high impact on young people's achievement and results. And let's face it, we're in a very result-driven culture with the government at the moment, so exams matter. So there's lots of research and evidence to indicate that it works. So I don't understand why we're not in every school, to be honest. That's certainly our aim. There should be more awareness of it. I think there is a real drive at the moment towards evidence-based teaching and learning. It happens in the medical world. A doctor wouldn't give you a drug that's proven not to work. And it's starting, that movement is happening. There's a thing called Research Ed. It's a conference coming up as well that talks about evidence-based teaching and learning. And metacognition and memory techniques is one of those that's on the agenda.
That's interesting. Well, having a result of from 22% to 75% is quite outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, for parents out there wondering, how can my child take part in the UK schools memory championships, you can send email to educationtalk@loveworldtv.co.uk, or you go to the Learning Performance website. One more thing, Carrie, just before we go. You organize workshops for parents, that we know, but parents may be saying, I may not be able to physically go to wherever you organize in the workshop. Do you usually have webinars for parents where parents can take part in the workshop?
Yeah, do you know, it's great. We're just developing that at the moment because you know how we touched on technology just a moment ago? We're trying to catch up with the 21st century too. So yes, there will be webinars on our website. We've got a learning lab, which is completely free. So if you go on our website, there are resources on there so parents can have a look at that, and schools too, and students can have a look, and hopefully it'll be helpful. But webinars are coming, definitely.
What's in your learning lab? When you talked about a learning lab, is it just for the students, parents, staff, heads of schools, or everyone?
All of it, all of them. There's on the learning lab, there's some articles about education, so about the science behind creativity, so how your brain actually learns. There's also the impact report, which was only published a few days ago, so it was really groundbreaking, exciting evidence that came out of that report. But as well as, you know, there's a revision timetable, a handy guide to get fit for exams, which is for students, and also resources for teachers on sort of lesson starters, activities, some ideas, so, and a couple of videos too. So there's something for everybody on the Learning Lab.
Thank you very much, Carrie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, viewers, I have been speaking with Carrie Sarbox, who is the Managing Director of Learning Performance, and their aim is to increase and raise achievement in schools. If you've got any questions, you can send emails to educationtalk@loveworldtv.co.uk. Thank you so much,
Thank
Carrie,
you
for coming, and we look forward to having you again.
Yeah, I had fun. Thank you very much.
Yes. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our programs.